One. Welcome, Chris Owens Radio. We are back with Little Dave, and the topic for today is going to be cheat meals, free meals, and refeeds. So,
All the fun stuff.
yes, the things that everyone probably begs us for or wonders when they're going to get, or, I think at this point I've developed a reputation of Chris doesn't give free meals or cheat meals on a prep, and I give what's needed.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it like that.
yeah.
And
Well, I'm on the same boat as you. I think it's almost retarded to be like, go eat whatever you want,
right. Yes.
because that opens up a bag of worms. It's like, how do you track that?
Correct.
Like, say they go get two burgers, a slice of pizza, and a cookie,
Right.
and the slice of pizza fucks them up, but everything else worked. That
Right.
means nothing worked, by the way, if you got fucked up from it.
Correct.
But
Yes.
how do you know which one was it? You know?
Right. Yes. Which is why I don't do what I call like buffet eating. Like always say to you, like, hey, let's do this. And a perfect example, how many was it 2 weeks ago? 1 week ago? I can't.
It was close. I mean, I think it was like a week and a half, maybe.
You know what? Let me pull it up. I'll just be exact. All right, let's see. I'll find it here. I just need to look at your spreadsheet. 25. It's got to be somewhere on there. I don't know. Jesus, you would think that would I should have had that pulled up instinctually, but I didn't. Um, I can't now for the life of me, I can't seem to find it. Oh well, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not always the viewer's time here. Um, but yeah, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I had you go no carb, no fat all day, and then have Five Guys at the end of the night. And literally said two double burgers, one little fry, and I even gave you the macronutrients for it. Like, and that's in your literal spreadsheet, and I'll have to find it, but it's in the spreadsheet to where we know that day at meal six, that's what you had, and then you woke up the next day and were needed even more food, which is hysterical. So, where I think the most logical place to begin with all of this is, normally what I like to do with refeeding clients is I get you in what I call like striking distance of a show. So that means every muscle is pretty much clearly defined. You're pretty damn vascular head to toe. And then we start adding food back in. For the most part, I would say that's the general rule of thumb that I've always followed. So let's say, for example, your all season ended at 7,000 calories. I'll pull you down to where, over the course of 8 to 10 weeks, we're down to like maybe 3,000, 3,500, 400, 4,000, somewhere in there. And then I'll start to see like, okay, it's time to start giving you some higher days sprinkled around your weak body parts or areas that tend to go flat to maintain training performance. And,
Yep.
not only that, but it also gives your metabolism a little bit of a jump start. So it keeps us progressing pretty linearly. While getting the benefits of huge pump, mental stimulation of having more food, and then the performance increase because I know you're like me, like when we get those nutrients, we put those to good use, and those refeeds tend to build on each other and then tend to get more frequent as well as you get leaner. So
Yep. And that's the secret too, is as you get leaner. The I see way too many people start doing refeeds when they're 10 weeks out,
yeah, yeah,
and they're just shooting themselves. They're just pausing their fat loss,
correct. Yes.
and that's where you got to be particular with it.
Mm, yeah. That's where if you're coaching yourself or you have someone you trust obviously coaching you, then you need to know that you're doing the increased calories for your body, not for your mind, because an emotional status is not a reason to increase food, in my opinion.
No.
Some coaches may argue that, like, oh, well, they're really in a bad spot. Let them go have a free meal with their wife or girlfriend, and that'll really boost their spirits again. That's another topic. What we're talking about right now specifically is, let's say your carbs were at 1,000 and now we're down to 400, and you're pretty damn hungry. You may still not need a free meal because at the end of the day, 400 grams of carbs is still a good amount to progress off of in the gym
Yeah.
the training sessions. Um, so you have to be very diligent when selecting the timing of those and then where you're placing them. And I think Where you place them is another great topic to explore. It's like I know some guys do those on their off days. So they're doing nothing but chilling. They just load their body with food. And then the next day, a couple days in the gym, they're an animal. And I've done that with people and it works really well. I
Yep.
tend to like really loading food on a weak body part day and then letting that carry over to the next training day. So you're kind
Yep.
of getting a two for one deal. Um,
Yep.
is how I look at it. How about you in terms of you as an athlete versus you as a coach? Are you the same way?
Pretty similar. I do really like rest day, re, let's say call it loads,
Yeah,
where it may be more moderate carb, but a little bit higher fat,
right. Yes.
especially as a part. It's almost a recovery tool.
Yes.
Like, hey, these guys are cool. Performance is dropping off. Let's fix that. Chill. Let's eat.
Yeah.
Bring you up to baseline or slightly above it. And then boom, the next day they feel amazing.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
And right, cool, we fixed that. And that whole day, they recover really well. And managing, like, sometimes it's always funny too, because like you give someone extra food who's like, I don't know how to put this, but they wanted to just like do extra cardio. They're like, oh, I got extra food. I'm gonna hit 30,000 steps today.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, please, Lord God, don't do that.
Right.
You
Yes.
know?
Yeah. You and I are the same accord there. Like, I'm giving you extra food to fill you up, not to give you more shit to burn through.
Yep.
Because then it's like, it's almost like a boat with a hole in it. You can keep scooping that water out, but it's going to keep filling back up if you don't manage that properly. And a lot of times, like I think it was yesterday I told you, or a lot of times I'll be like, look, cut your cardio in half today, or don't do the hit portion of your cardio, or just make an easy walk. Like because I don't want to have to work so much against exercise. And I know if it's a training day, I don't want you holding that back. I want you sending that all the way to the end. And like we're doing today for you is like I'm giving you some more food before your workout. You're going to send me photos post lift, tell me how your pump is, and then I may feed you more after your lift, all based upon looking how your performance was. Um, and I know not every coach is that OCD about shit. And I could have probably just put food in there haphazardly post lift for your meals 4 through 6. I'd much rather just see it and determine what we need. Because
Yeah.
if we can eke out a little bit more conditioning today, my vote is like, let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
Or if it's like, oh, your arms didn't get as full as you like, your legs don't have that pop that it had 2 days ago, like I'm going to feed you the rest of the day. So to me, I'd rather be a little bit more precise as opposed to just creating a plan for the next
Yeah.
18 hours.
Well, and that's like the biggest thing. I mean, it's like, how many times have we seen coaches, they send their client, they sign up, they're 20 weeks out, and the coach also sends them their peak week protocols. It's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is it? Like, I don't personally drive a DeLorean. I,
No.
I don't have the ability to see into the future. And like, I know it's somewhat annoying when I ask my clients to check in every fucking day when they're, 2 weeks out,
Yeah.
or something. It's not always the easiest thing to do. Like, we all have fucking shit we got to do. Like, you got to head to work, you know. But like, if you have to wake up tomorrow and it's like, I'm unsure if we're giving you food or if we're gonna push food still, you know, and it's like, I don't want to just guess.
Correct.
Like,
Yes.
there are times I will just guess. Like, I've had, um, a bikini girl compete, and she's like, "Cool, I got hair. I have to be up at 3 a.m. for hair and makeup."
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, there's probably zero chance I'm going to be at all like awake at that time. So this is what you're going to do: wake up, fast for a second at 5 a.m., eat this,
Right.
and then finish your hair and makeup. Send me pictures. We'll go from there."
Correct.
It's like, and that's an educated guess.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
But it's better than it's like, I don't know the rest of the day is still questionable, right? So you can fix that. Like, sure, I could send her over an entire plan,
Right. Yeah.
but is it going to be the best option?
Yeah.
Because that's like the thing with bodybuilding is it can change so slightly, and managing those little bumps in the road is where you land a peak successfully.
Correct.
I see so many people fuck up their peaks because they made a plan a week out and they stuck to it without putting any thought into it. Like, is it still working?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
If you're 5 degrees off and you go for 500 miles, you're 100. plus miles off to the destination.
Right.
You know, like if you don't make a course correction, you're fucked.
Yeah. That scenario you just laid out, the number of international guys who have done that, right? Where it's like in my time, it's like 1:30 a.m. and they're waking up to get tan and shit. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, all right, do this. I was like, have a coffee, chill for a bit, and then I have a very balanced meal. So let's say it's like on your normal size heavyweight bodybuilder, 6 ounces of chicken, 200 grams of rice, half a tablespoon of olive oil, and 100 grams of fruit. Very, very just like base level. That singular meal is not going to push them the direction of spilling over or being running flat. It's just going to maintain them until I get up and I'm functioning at 4 o'clock in the morning, my time. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like you have a meal in you, you have roughly a liter of water. Now let's like really dig our heels in. And I think a lot of times people are scared to admit that. They think, oh God, like Chris like admitted that he guessed. And it's like, well, I've been coaching him for the past 6 years. I have a good fucking clue what he's going to need. And I know
Yeah,
that
exactly.
as long as I don't go extreme and do like, okay, Dave, you're just going to eat 6 ounces of fish and asparagus, or I'm going to say eat 200 grams of carbs and 50 grams of fat.
Yeah,
Both of those are going to, that I might have to do some recovery work. But if I put a
yeah,
middle of the road meal, man, you're going to look probably the same way you did when you woke up.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's not like you're like, what? All right, immediately go to Denny's and have 4 stacks of pancakes.
Right, right.
You know, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
so much can go wrong there.
Agreed. 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 And like on the flip side of that, like if I train someone who is a more of a night owl and they live on the West Coast, man, there's not a chance in hell I'm seeing your post lift photos. Like that's coming tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
Because look, I'm usually snoring with my mouth open at 9 o'clock Eastern time on a normal day. So it's
yeah,
like, yeah, like well, send me your photos post lift. I'll wake up, I'll see them at 4 or 5 a.m. And then if we have to either pull food or push food or keep it the same, we'll modify that and you'll have your full plan when you wake up the next morning. So yeah, all right. So with carb ups and things like that, I think a lot of times where I see people go wrong is they think it's a loose day of eating. And it's like, oh, well, you said 200, but I measured 250, or I cut a banana and it's 116 grams, not 100. And I'm like, okay, look, you've been precise for the last fucking 14 weeks. Like, can we just keep it there? Because if you don't add and you follow the plan, and let's say you do something like you do and you lose weight, I'm gonna feed you again tomorrow, homie.
yeah. It's not. It's the last. It's not the last time you're ever gonna eat. That one gets me so bad. It's just
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
I understand. Like, cool. If you want to, at the day after the show, if you want to eat like an asshole, send it.
Right.
But like
Right.
leading up to the show, it's like that's your fucking job is to be on point.
Right. Yes.
You're never going to be on point by just sending it.
No. No. No.
Calculated is always the answer.
Without a doubt. Right. Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. So the last handful of shows I went to with Chris, we've always eaten at Cheesecake Factory after a show, right? And he's like, all right, I know you're dieting. He's like, are you going to be able to eat Cheesecake Factory with me? I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. Um, but it's one of those things where I think a lot of times if people hung out with us and they saw in the fridge, they get in there and like, who in the fuck ate like a quarter of this apple? Like, well, I ate one apple and it was short like 100 grams. So I had to cut some of the other. And it's like, oh, well, you just could have eaten both the apples. I'm like, well, I could have, but that wasn't accounted for. Um,
yeah,
and
yeah. That one it gets me all the time because like whenever I go to the store, I make sure I get like the biggest fucking bananas I can find
correct.
because I'd much rather have to throw away like an inch of it
Yes.
than I have to have one and a half.
Or, or like 1 1/4. You're like, fuck,
Yeah,
you're like 90 grams or 89 grams. You're like, Jesus Christ. Okay. How thick is this skin? Like,
yeah,
but yeah, you know, that's something that I always tend to forget about is when I'm making those plans for people, I think sometimes I don't account for the opportunity for mental weakness because in my mind, like if John said it, because this is how John used to do me. He wouldn't give me a high day meal plan. He would just say, let's say my carbs were at 200 and he wanted me to have an extra 350. He would say, all right, Chris, I need you to fill up today, train legs. hard as hell and add 350 grams of carbs to your day. Okay. And then he would allow me to go within my spreadsheet and I would add the 350 grams of carbs and I'd send it to him and he'd be like, perfect. And that's how he coached me. Um, and it worked really, really well. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine if he wanted me to do 350 extra, putting it at 550 total. I couldn't be like, ah, well, 600 feels better, or 600 is easy math for me. I'm like, he said 350 extra. I'm going to eat 350 extra. Like,
Yeah.
so it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around that from a coach perspective because I could never envision doing that to him or anyone for that matter,
Yeah.
that I'd worked with. So, and I know some people maybe don't have that level of accountability to themselves, and I think that's where it probably stems from, is they allow that what is like a temporary let off the gas pedal to like
Derail them.
derail their like locked inness, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's another point to consider too, with like who the person is and how they operate. Because I
Right.
have plenty of clients that could be like, "Cool, add 50 grams of carbs each meal," and
Right.
I know they're going to eat 200 grams of rice,
Mm.
70 grams of cream of rice, a cup of oatmeal, something similar to that.
Right.
If there's other clients of those, if I said add 50 grams of carbs to each meal, like I would be hesitant. I would be worried what they're going to add it from Oreos,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
and that's where sometimes that's where coaching comes involved because I've got a couple guys where it's as a matter of fact, it's like cool. You can definitely change if you want to have chicken or turkey. I don't fucking care. And then there's other ones where it's written down. It's like don't fucking change a thing.
Right. Yes. Yes.
What this says.
Right. Because I mean, you and I both know that even though licorice and rice may be the same macronutrients, they aren't. Um, or I mean, if you can fill in the blank there, like with any relatively matching carb, fat, or protein. Um, you and I don't believe that all are created equal. And when you're factoring in things for adding for high day, I always think about people's digestion and their rate in which they digest the food. Like, I don't want anything to sit in your stomach heavy. So, for
Yeah,
example, if I know that potatoes don't sit well with your stomach, then I'm gonna be like, hey, like, let's not do potatoes. It's as simple as that. Um, I tend to lean more towards rice and fruit and oats, cream of rice. I'm not opposed to potato. I have potato in your
yeah,
plant right now, so it's
yeah.
actually mixed potato and rice.
Mm-hmm. It's a good combo, actually.
Oh man, there's something about that to me that like I like the idea of mixing carbohydrates as you
Yeah,
like. I love like savory rice and sweet fruit or savory rice and cream of rice. I like rice and potatoes, so it's like a little bit of a texture difference. Because
yeah,
when I get potato in a refeed, I always put that shit in the air fryer and get it crispy. So it's just the way I like
yeah.
it. Um,
Same. We're on the same boat there. And then it's like a mixture. It gets rid of any like mouth fatigue.
yes,
Just like
agreed.
instead of like 400 grams of rice, where you're like eating this, same shape thing for 400 bites now.
Right. Yes. And I think there is something to like the nutrient density, the different minerals and vitamins within each, right? Like I know a lot of people uh, are not for fruit for some reason, which blows my mind. I really believe in my heart that's why guys like me and you don't need or think about sweets, is because when I'm eating bananas and pineapples and apples and berries, man, that's it's like dessert when you haven't had chocolate in 6 months. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And plus for me, like that wetness of the fruit makes the whole meal go down easy.
Yeah. Well, then stupid things like whenever you give me pineapple and I'm in prep, packet of Splenda and cinnamon goes on it, and that is actual crack.
Right. Because you do that with your apples too. You put
Yeah,
cinnamon Splenda in a baggie and shake it up and then mix it
yeah,
together. I'm like, well, that's genius. Like
yeah.
so
It just
a
it tastes
quirk,
like an apple pie.
right. Yes. Yeah. I'm on this quirk right now of like, I don't know why peeling my apples seems so much more fancy, but I peel my apples and it's like again, Angel's like, why are you peeling that? You've always eaten the peel. I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like it's more of a treat this way. She's like, you're ridiculous. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Do
I
you have
mean,
one of those like handle spinner things?
so I just have one of those hand like potato peelers and I just do like this. Yeah.
Oh, the that would actually be worthwhile.
Okay.
My grandma had one. She used to make like apple pies with it,
Oh shit.
but
Okay.
it's just like it's a machine. It's just like a corkscrew,
Yeah.
and it peels it, but it also like turns it into a spiral shape.
Oh shit. But
So
that's
it's like thinly cut, and then like it turns into like a slinky
oh yeah, yeah, heck yeah.
for like, and then you just cut that up and throw it in a pie.
Yeah.
But that would be a fun way to because it's peeled and cut, and it's
Right. Yeah.
slinky shape now.
Agree. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've been watching during my cardio a lot of Jordan Hutchinson's YouTube videos of his eating, and like he's been making those waffles with his bola gains. He does.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen him do. He'll take the brownie batter bola gains, cook it, put it in the fridge, and then he'll put a Ninja Creamy on top of it for protein and carbs. And I'm like, man, that's fucking genius.
yeah.
Like,
That's
and,
all the
and
little smart things. It's like the how well that works. I mean, like how
yeah,
creative we get as bodybuilders
yes,
when it comes to making things what work for our goals and our mouths.
yeah. Oh, right. I credit Ross for that because man, these new flavors of bowl gains that he's coming out with it's like they're like candy.
Yeah,
Like, and then I don't know. I know I didn't text you this, so I he just sent me a bottle of that glizzy sauce, and Angel and I tried it last night. Man, I I can imagine how good that's going to taste. Well, she ate hers with ground beef. I ate mine with chicken. If you like dill pickles, it tastes like he mixed dill pickles fresh with sweet poppy sauce. Is what it tastes like to me. Fuck, man, it's good.
that's good. Well, good thing I have three coming here on Thursday.
Score. Yeah, yeah. So to me, like when you look at all different types of ways to take clean carbohydrates, build them into your plan, it makes those high days just roll right through you, right? And
Yeah,
this is the next topic I had jotted down to talk about is I'm sure you've experienced this with the clients. I've never personally experienced this, is when I've given people high days and they're like, Chris, I was stuffed. And I'm always like terrified. Like, how and what did you do?
yeah, yeah. That yeah, you're like that. What?
Right. Because all I do is just take what we've been eating either in the off season or the reduced portions of contest prep, and I just do this with it. Like, and I never, I mean, listen, I'm never gonna quadruple someone's carbohydrates unless they need it, but very rarely the first refeed we ever do is like maybe double, maybe a third more than what you're currently eating. And when someone says, "Man, I struggle to get that down," I'm always like, "Oh, like, huh,
Yeah.
that's weird." Or if have you ever had someone once you carved them up for a show and they're like, "I can't eat anymore"?
Not really. I've had some where this is like they're like this is a lot, but then I think they saw it and they're like this is a lot of food, and then they're like, oh, never mind, that went down really easy.
So I have, there's been a handful of people that I've had that just tell me I think it's more in their head, if I'm being honest, right? Like they correlate higher food volume with a blown out midsection. And
Yeah,
I'm like, erase that from your brain.
yeah,
Like, because anxiety for sure will cause you digestive distress. And then if you have digestive distress, like then that will slow the absorption of your food and it will sit heavy in your stomach. So that's something I always worry about. And it tends to be a lot with female competitors, especially in like the smaller classes where midsection is even more so important. But I'm like, hey, we're good, I promise. Which is why I like to tend to build refeeds into their pre-contest phase the whole time to show them like, hey, we had 300 grams of carbs today, and your midsection was like this. So then
yeah,
you get to peak week, and it's like, okay, we're gonna have 150 on Monday, 250 on Thursday, and we might do 300 on Friday. And they're like, okay, cool. Like I've been there, I've done that, I have nothing to stress about. Where I think the people who I really have to push hard to the very like bitter end, and okay, cool. Now it's time to load up a little bit, and then they're like, oh, I don't want to lose my midsection, and it's like, you won't because I won't allow that to happen. Trust me. So
yeah. What's always interesting too, like I feel like the for most part, most people, like the day after a high carb day, when they first wake up in the morning, their midsection is always tighter.
Yeah. Yes.
Pay
Yeah.
attention. It's just like, oh, cool, you had double the amount of food you had yesterday, and your stomach's tighter. Like, really, you're worried about, like, yeah, you can. I can definitely. Like, I've seen plenty of times where it's like the end of the high day, you're kind of like midsection is a little bit
Yes.
not ever distended, especially where digestion and everything's going to be so well because you've been in a deficit. Like, you haven't had a surplus of calories in at least a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually a good topic that I didn't have down is like, I think a lot of times, let's say, you're doing 6 meals and each of them roughly have 100 grams of carbs in them. By the end of that last meal, you'll look bananas, but
Yeah.
you'll lose a little bit of sharpness probably. Like,
Hmm.
it's just not quite as crispy, even though, no, for me, my appendages always look wild. And like, they like the chest shoulders look really great. But by the end of the night, when I've had, you figure 6 to 8 liters of water in me, plus my intra, 600-ish grams of carbs, like, yeah, my midsection might be a little bit pushed out. But
Yeah.
as you said, when you wake up the next morning, like it's just like everything's just shrink wrapped, and it's such a cool sensation. So if that's you out there and you are one of those people who are scared of carbohydrates, like just know, take a deep breath. Like, don't eat half the carbs in your last meal because you think you're gonna get fat off of it. Like, eat the meal, go to sleep, get good sleep, and then when you wake up the next morning, really look in the mirror and you'll look probably the best you've looked in a long time. So yeah. All right, so on to the next. In terms of clean refeeds versus a free meal, what are some things you look for in terms of doing one or the other?
How flat they are,
Yeah, yeah,
where their training performance is, and where their headspace is.
correct.
Because the, well, me and you, I mean, we're gonna get a dopamine hit from just extra food,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I don't need a cheeseburger to have a dopamine hit, but like a lot of people will actually. I mean,
yeah.
that's a reason to have a cheat meal is the dopamine that does actually do a thing
Yes,
or two.
agreed.
However, that one it's not as needed as most people think.
Mhm. Right.
You know, and the reality is, a lot of the times it's going to be a carb based kind of thing.
Yes,
There's
yes,
and there's also fat based. Like the Five Guys you gave me was more of a fat load than a carb load.
correct. Yeah, fat and sodium, man.
And it kind of just if someone wakes up and they're like 8 pounds down from their last check-in, it's like, all right, that might be
Yeah,
like we're having some kind of cheat meal
yes, yeah.
or like a free meal versus just like an extra 200 grams of carbs is what is that? What
800
is that?
calories.
Yeah,
800.
yeah, not much at all. Versus like you can get if you had like a single burger is going to be that much.
Right. Yes. Yeah, because I mean, like, here, I'll pull up the macronutrients for the Five Guys, right? So if you have two double burgers, that's 110 grams of fat. Um, and if you do the little fry with it, you're having an additional 23. So what's that? That's 133 grams of fat and not a lot of food volume. Um, and then a shitload of it's a sodium bomb. So it's like, if you need, in my mind, how I look at it is if the clean carbs aren't sticking, meaning aren't filling the muscle out, aren't making the muscle push against the skin, or aren't driving the scale this way, I need to add fat aggressively. And the easiest way for me to do that, as opposed to just making you eat a jar of almond butter, is to say, hey, go have a Five Guys meal, and that will solve it like real quick. Because you
Mhm.
could put a tablespoon and a half of olive oil in every one of your meals and equal that same level of fat. It's not the same though.
No, not even close.
No, no. So no, yeah, everything you said, absolutely spot on. Like the reason I specifically gave it to you was we'd had 2 high days and it just wasn't sticking. Like your scale weight was actually going up, but you were getting flatter. Um, so I was like, fuck that shit. Like,
Yeah,
I'll, we're gonna have Five Guys. And I told you the day before, I was like, if your scale weight and your look doesn't change, I'm giving you Five Guys. And you're like, okay. And then sure enough, you check the next day, I'm like, done, it's over. Make it your meal 6. And you woke up the next day and the look that I was after was fully back. So that's to me what I look for free meals. I remember my last prep I did, I had a crazy week in Chicago and I came back and I was like 9.5 pounds down. And the moment I walked in the door from the airport, Angela's like, "What the fuck happened to you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "You just deflated." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I woke up, I was down 9.5 this morning. And she's like, "Let me look at you pose." So she did. And she's like, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, "I think we're gonna eat Five Guys." And like Daxon heard me say it, and he's like, "Five Guys, yay!" So I was like, let me go rinse off in the shower and then we're gonna go smash that meal together. Guess what? The next day I woke up instantly back to myself, muscle jumping out of the skin. And again, that was an extreme circumstance. I still ate all my food. I wasn't like I missed any meals while I was in Chicago for Keena, Danny, and Joe, but it was like a lot of like anxiety and stress up and down with getting them all managed, peaked, and I'll
Yep.
probably never have a good pro show walking away with fucking 5 trophies that day. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean, also that comes down to like with your coach too, like communication. On like
yeah.
if work's been a like, there's a difference between complaining and communicating.
Yes, agreed.
First part of the step,
Yeah.
but like if you work a semi difficult like manual labor job, like you do something in that show, and like you guys have been busy as hell, and your normal 40-hour weeks turn into 60,
Yeah. Yep.
and you don't say anything about that.
Yep. Agreed.
Like there could be a reason you're not responding,
You're right. Yes.
or like I have personally seen people stop responding in prep and nothing makes sense,
Yeah.
and then they tell me what their girlfriend broke up with them, and this and this happened. It's like, oh, your stress levels went through the fucking roof.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you know it's like and like we figure that out a little bit, and like things go back to continuing.
Oh
But
yeah.
if they never say anything, like it's really hard to figure that one out.
Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example. We were just talking about Chris. Last contest season, he had to spend an entire week in a deep freezer. So 8 to 10 hours a day in a deep freezer working on robots. And he was just melting fat. And if he wouldn't have told me that, I would never have been able to prepare his body to feed him into that week. You know what I mean? Like, because listen, that dude will suffer like you. He don't give a fuck. But when he told me what he had to do, and then I was watching his body every day, I was like, feed again, feed again, feed again. And then by the end of the week, he was actually net down, but his food was up like 35%. So you have, again, I know that people are saying, oh, Chris, you're going to talk about both sides of your mouth. This isn't an excuse to where if your work's hard a week to take your calories this way.
Yeah,
It has to be warranted and needed.
exactly. Yeah, there's one of those things. It's just like, especially if it's not even a change, like it's just like something what normally happens with work. It's like, what the fuck are you worried about?
Yes. Right.
But like it's when the weird shit happens where you're like, cool, I'll be working a double, or
Yeah.
I got three doubles this week for whatever reason. Like shit hit the fan.
Right.
It's like we, we probably need to manage training as well. Because
Correct.
if you think you're going to recover from training really hard and doing all the cardio and being in a deficit
Right.
while working an extra 30 hours a week,
Mm.
like be realistic there.
Yeah. Yeah. The amount of times I've said to people like, hey, like back a couple reps off of failure, or don't do force reps or any intensity techniques, or hey, go in there, just I'm good with you training hard, just cut the volume by 25%. And they're like, why? And I'm like, trust me, you don't need any more trauma. Like I want to reduce overall fatigue and volume that I'm giving you so that it can account for the extra stimulus you had through work or your kids or your family, fill in the blank. Like I've had guys where their air conditioning unit have went out in the middle of the summer and they're just sitting there sweating their dick off. And every day they wake up and they're down like 12.5 pounds. Like we have to figure something out here. Like
Mhm.
we have to plan for this because not only are you getting shitty sleep, but you're super dehydrated now. Okay, so that's a recipe for. I also train in a gym that doesn't have AC. Like I have to manage all of that.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If you walk around chronically dehydrated, the probability of tearing a muscle while being lean, crazy high. So again, all things to consider. I'm trying to think. Well, I know one more thing I would love to talk about is this is something that I don't think a lot of people think about is they don't take their digestive aids serious when they have a carb up. Like, so if I know I'm going to increase my carbs pretty drastically, I will have some sort of GDA with every meal. And I use that MD glucodisposal aid from True Nutrition, the one that John designed. Um, or we're going to use insulin. 2 to 3 times, maybe 4 times a day. Um, Now I don't want to go like deep in the insulin world because I feel like that's a whole can of worms that we probably shouldn't be digging into. But I did want to mention the fact that like we do use things to shuttle the nutrients so they go to our muscles and not just sit in our stomach.
Yep.
Are there any digestive aids or enzymes that you use, Dave, outside of your normal if I give you extra food?
I really like Leviathan's GI, so I'll
Okay,
just
good.
double my. I usually take 3 caps a day.
Okay.
I'll double that to six,
Yep.
and then like for Five Guys, before I had that meal, I had three of the. Have you ever had the papaya digestive enzymes?
Yes. Yeah.
I legitimately just brought three of those with me,
Yep.
ate
Yep.
them while I ordered it and then ate
Right.
them. So that's the thing with a lot of digestive enzymes. Like I love pointing this out. That capsule takes 15 to 20 minutes to dissolve.
Yes.
So you take it after your meal, it's not doing fuck all.
Pointless. Right.
You
Yeah.
know, get
Yep.
that thing in you before you eat,
Right. Yeah.
and then
If I'm
yeah,
making
then
my
go to
meal,
town.
listen, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like you have to, that it's how that works.
Right. Yes. Yeah. If I'm making my meal at home, I'll just take the GDA before I do anything with measuring food or putting it on the stove, heating it up. And that's going to take me roughly 15 minutes to make that food fresh before I swallow that pill and the first bite goes in. And I've always found that to be like the perfect amount because you're
Yep.
going into that meal relatively empty. And then I always like to drink while I'm making my food because I'm thirsty. So it's one of those things like that cap gets broke down, it explodes, done. And then like that to me just always makes sense. And then I'm with you. Like if I do a free meal in the off season or pre-contest, I am doubling the dose of digestive aid all day long.
Yep.
And then I'm not going to be dumb and order a bunch of dairy and shit like that. So I don't need lactate or any of that kind of mess. Where if you are someone who's going to like finish their cheat meal off or free meal off with Ben and Jerry's, I would definitely take something for that.
Yeah.
Or the people that live with you are going to hate you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's about all things refeed cheat meals. I think maybe where we finish with here is I always tend to like to start on the lower end of increasing food, see how you tolerate it, and then just like, okay, cool. The next time we need to do this, I'll just increase it and see how you respond. Um, where I know some people like that shotgun approach, they'll go to like, oh, cool, I'm gonna give you 1,000 grams of carbs today. I'm like, that's way too aggressive for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Then yeah, you could have gotten away with 500.
right, right,
You know.
yes,
So
yes,
that's definitely one of those ones where it's like, all right, cool.
right. And as we said earlier, if it's not heavy-handed enough, you just do it again the next day. Like,
Yeah.
there's literally no stress. Like, I think that's something that most people forget is I would rather you come to me flat the week of the show and me fill you up than you come to me fat and be like, how in the fuck is this going to disappear? Because I can fix flat in a day or two. Fixing fat is going to take a few weeks.
Yeah.
So everyone out there, please remember that when you're selecting your free meals or cheat meals or carb refeeds, like be light-handed until you're so fucking shredded that no matter what you eat, you're still shredded. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize.
Yep. It's a calculated effort. It's not just you don't just throw shit at things, and
Right.
hope it works.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's really comical, right? Is like you'll hear people say, "Oh man, I'm so lean." It's like you see the side of their leg, and it's like they have no vascularity, in it, and I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
I guess our
Luckily,
level of leanness is different.
luckily, me and you have very similar, ideas of what condition means.
Yeah, yes,
Like
yes,
if your glutes don't have texture, you're not peeled.
right. Yes. Yeah.
Like I don't fucking care about a line. I want to see. They better have textures. They
Yes.
should
Yeah.
look like sandpaper.
Right. Yeah. The way I always try to tell people is this, an easy test. You take the skin on the back of your knuckle. That's what it should feel like on your glutes and your hamstrings and your low back or wherever you hold fat. And if it feels like this, we're good because not many people hold fat on the backside of their hand. Well, they shouldn't if they're competitors, at least.
Yeah,
So remember that. Like it should look hard and nasty and just like, as you said, very gristly. Like John would call that granite, which is why the name of the supplement company is what it is. Like you should look like stone, front, back, top, bottom. And when you're there, then you can, like when I get you fully in shape, I have no fear of you eating whatever you want the next day and you'll wake up and look like a freak. So until next time, Chris, Dave, we're done. Enjoy your cheat meals or not.